All right, well, it's July 28th, and the house is starting to go back together. So the framer's in. They're starting to put the basic floor joist work together, so you can kind of see where the new floor plan is going to be. And they got the sort of massive seismic beams in at the front. You can see the brackets they've got there that tie down into the concrete. It's basically just a giant sandwich of plywood for the most part. But that's structurally to help keep the new front door opening in place and not going anywhere. The excavation guys are all done smoothing out the crawl space and getting that kind of back to normal so the framer can do their work. You can kind of see some of the lumber they've got staged in around here. The insulation guys have pulled all the old insulation out of the crawl space, but they haven't disposed of it yet, so it's still sitting here on site. But at least the crawl space is open and empty, and we can re-insulate that when the time comes. You can see they've got the mud sills out and bolted down. Talked to the framer and asked if there are any issues or concerns with the layout of anything, and they said they were good to go. So hopefully all that time we spent on the foundation and the framing for the layout of all these sill bolts and tie downs worked out, because they haven't had any challenges or questions. So it'll be nice now that the floor is starting to go in, just to get some lumber back in here and see how everything ties together. So they've got the basic outline of the floor joists in here, but clearly they've got a lot of work to do yet. But they've really only been working for a day or so, but even just that is nice to see progress again with the actual building materials going back in and the house starting to get laid out. I think once the floor joists are done, they'll have to do an inspection of just the floor joist to make sure that everything's bolted and set appropriately from a seismic standpoint. You can see here they've got some of those larger sort of 5/8 bolts that go further down into the concrete. To do some additional bolting, I think there's some brackets that go onto those. They've got some channels cut into the wood, but that's just kind of more seismic tie down stuff. And at some point they'll have to do the basic framing of the deck, although the framer, at least at this point, isn't going to do anything more than really what they've already done with the house here, which is lay out the outline of the deck and some of the cross beams. They're not going to do any of the actual floor decking material, at least not anytime soon. So at least the good news is it's going back together. So it's nice to see the actual house layout, and just to have even all the excavation quite frankly cleared up, where all the piles of dirt and debris and everything are kind of gone now. You know, we're slowly getting back to a nice workable surface and a nice lot. So a couple more days of floor framing and joist work, and then we'll really be ready to start laying out some of the rough plumbing for the new waste vent, at least. Probably not supply side yet, I think just the waste side. But we'll get that laid out, and then it's just a matter of waiting for the roof trusses really to finish up the framing. So for now, we're probably just going to do the floors and maybe some of the wall work. Obviously they can get a little bit of that done, but I think until the roof trusses are really ready, there's probably not too much more they'll be able to do. But hopefully that won't be too much longer, and in the meantime we'll have to get some of the initial plumbing done, and then probably insulate the crawl space areas that they're creating here, just to get that inspection done. Then they can at least put the subfloor down, and we'll be ready from that standpoint. This area is going to be a little tricky because the way they've got the ceiling supported, they've got that temporary beam kind of going through the floor. They'll probably be able to do the joist work around that, but obviously they won't be able to get that support beam out of there until they reframe in some of these walls here in the living room. They might be able to do that relatively quickly, but first obviously they'll just have to do the floor joist work, get that inspected, then put in the subfloor. Then they'll be able to actually reframe the new walls here in the living room, which are moving a little bit, but are somewhat in the same spot. But they'll refactor a little bit of that, but that's kind of a minor thing. It shouldn't be too bad. But again, it's just nice to see lumber coming on site, and a lot of the work going back into putting the house together. It'll just be nice to see it reframed and really just get to see the house layout once it's all said and done. So we're getting there. It's looking better and better every day. So another week or so and it'll look more and more like a house again, which is nice. So we'll keep watching.